What's cracking? I am Nick Danger, and you are now tuned into the Art of MV. Welcome to the channel, and thanks for watching my video. Like, share, subscribe, browse the channel for more videos, and let's do some MV talk, man. So, last time on the video, I was talking about the crack epidemic, and somebody actually did correct me in the comment section. So sometime briefly after, when all the dolls started to dominate, Kai sold that company to In Music or In Space Music, whichever company owns Newmark. They own Rain, and the company also owns Alesis. Why do I mention this? Well, we all know that when the dolls took over, people still wanted a 16-pad 4x4 matrix to do beats with, even inside the software. The sound sounded good, but triggering it and doing all this mousing and clicking around wasn't really the hip-hop thing, or just wasn't touching the music enough for most people. So this left a lane for a company like Native Instruments to step in and facilitate that 16-pad matrix, and they did so with the Native Instruments machine. Now, there's several copies of the machine. There's Machine Plus, Machine K2. There's a couple of different machines. And for a time, they were the MPC of software, so to speak. Akai wasn't having it. Akai launched, and they've never looked back. They started out with a couple of MPCs, but the one I remember most being excited about was my boy. He had an MPC Renaissance, right? And this same company made the MPC X as well, because all the MPCs before this. So they got a whole race of MPCs now. But the same company also, who owns Alesis, just had to pay Roland up $4.6 million for sound infringement or something like that. That's an Akai case. So Akai was accused of basically selling Roland sounds. Now, I think some of the plugins that come in with the MPC X are like Jupiter X's and Junos and different classic keys. I'm pretty sure they got motif stuff as well, but apparently they were selling some of these sounds within the plugins, and I don't think that was part of the license. So they had to up some money to Roland, as well as another company, Alesis, had to, as you saw in the video, they actually had drum technology that they put in drum machine and the electronic drum kits that were just like they were stolen technology from Roland, and they put it right next to it, as you saw in the trailer in the video there. They put that right next to Roland stuff in the store, so they had to pay Roland. So I say all that to say that it's not a far shot to say they looked at the MV and what Roland did not reclaim, because Roland wasn't making another MV, so why not? You know what I mean? Because some of those features just wasn't in MPCs prior to the MV8000. There was no 8-track recording on the MPCs. There was no big ass linear screen on the MPCs. Nah, that's a borrow. That's a borrow, and I say touche. But the reason I call this the Phantom Pain is because, well, basically, everything that we would thought Roland would have made to compete with that, Roland put in their flagship gear. So NPC was always the flagship gear for Kai. The things that consumers that we thought should have been in the new MV8000 or 9900, they put it in the Phantom. So all the stuff that MPC-X has, the Phantom has, and then some. You know what I mean? The clip-based production that the MV has, the Phantom has that. I'm pretty sure it has the step sequencer as well. So that's why I call this the Phantom Pain, because the Phantom was always their flagship gear. Even the Phantoms that came after this one, I have a Phantom X. Well, actually, the Phantom X actually has it as well, but on the G series Phantoms, they really featured the 8-track hard disc recorder, just like the MV, with the mastering software and everything. I just don't think the thing about those Phantoms and them having hard disc recorders or 8 tracks of recording like the MV is that they don't have the sequencer. So the sequencer to the Phantom G and this Phantom, they're a lot more stiff than these are. Now I can groove with this. As a matter of fact, let me do something. I'll play let me Now, the story behind this track is using skip back sampling. I caught something that I was working on and forgot about it. And that's what this is. You didn't have percentage quantizing like this does. You didn't have the tempo that you could put at 130.06 in the Phantom. It's just like this one. It's just a straight tempo, right? But the Phantom has always been their flagship gear. And the only thing it was probably missing was the sequencer of the MV. So the new Phantom has everything that we want in MV and some of the MPCX stuff, like the modular stuff. That's why I say this is the Phantom pain, is that because everything that we want is on the Phantom. Now, I like the Phantom. There's not enough money in me being a musician for me to go out and spend nearly $4,000, right? But that's where all that stuff is. Now, what does that leave us with the MV users, right? Roland went a totally different way with the MV this time, and I kind of like it, you know. Before I play this little clip, to give you a better understanding of why that is, I did a lot of research when I first bought my MV before buying it to see what was what, and I found out that it's a pretty cool piece of gear, but I think they explain it a lot better than I can. So let me pop open my iPad and check this out.
You have all the trap sounds, you have the sub basses, the 808 basses, you have all this stuff. Then you also have this whole other side where you have all of these, you know, acoustic sounds, you know, you can, you know, and
oh, MIDI sax. Oh, yes.
yeah, but see, it didn't. But see, you layer it right. You know, you get the right melody. You don't.
It sounds legit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it does sound good.
I think it sounds good. I think it sounds good. Yeah.
So, Chris, these are advanced techniques. I mean, if people are just watching this for the first time, they're like, "Wait, what is he talking about?" He just made
Fair
the
use.
verse lab
Fair use.
take a
Just a
solo
clip.
by itself. What? So so people understand, you used was it the clip behavior that you got to randomize? Is that what was going on there?
Okay, so on the Verse Lab, you have all your note data and the sound settings are saved as a clip, and then in the section. Is basically a section is all of the clips from all of the tracks. So the clips are individual. So you can actually say, okay, in this particular section, I want this clip to play. And then in like say for the end of the track, I said, okay, I'm going to copy that same clip, but then I'm going to change the order of which those notes are played. And you have the option to play it like forwards, which is normal, forwards, then backwards, or you can have it where it plays it randomly.
They went other than the 16 pad layout here, the direction is so opposite of the MPC now. I think they got out of that particular lane and they pretty took a bow to Akai and said, hey, you guys can have that lane. We're going to go this way. And when you first get to know the MV, which I got a video I'm working on now. I'm probably going to put out right after this one that I'm editing. When you get to know the MV, for the size and the cost that this thing, that the MV comes in at, you can't beat it, man. You can't beat it. But I'm going to drag this up a little bit so you can hear this other part. Fair use.
So as you can see, there's we're plugged up to VerseLab, and let me just picture in picture so you can see, not me, there we go. So we're plugged into VerseLab, and we can see there's an icon here, VerseLab Editor. So we click on that, and it populates with all the clips and the sections from the VerseLab unit. So it knows where the clips are. I then get a dedicated tone editor with both tone and MFX individually into ZenBeats with all the clips and the sections. This is a project editor, so this is not running a ZenBeats session per se. This is a dedicated GUI and editor that works with VerseLab when you're in ZenBeats. Record all your tracks individually into ZenBeats, and then further refine it using other ZenBeats sounds. But if you want to add extra tracks, you can do that. Now, one really important thing to let you guys know: this ZenBeats integration will be a rolling, evolving integration, meaning that we're going to be implementing new patches fairly regularly. Let me dive a little deeper into this though. So some other benefits. So you have a mixing screen, okay? So you have this pop-out GUI here, and when you're mixing on VerseLab, you can do it all on here. You press one track and you go to your mixer and you can access your EQ, etc., etc. But in the case of ZenBeats, you can actually access all your tracks at once. So it makes it a lot easier to change your levels, your panning, your delay and reverb sense, etc., all from one screen. That's quite a bit of a time saver. Additionally, you have these effects here and your mastering effects. So they have dedicated GUIs. These parameters that we're looking at are spread over a couple menu pages. So it's really a benefit to be able to access all of these parameters on a single GUI in ZenBeats, right? So, your multi-effects is over here. Now, multi-effects is something that we're not going to have bandwidth to talk about today, but there's over like 90 different multi-effects that all live in here. There's tons of them. You can access all of them and edit them right here in ZenBeats.
So, I don't know how you guys know how game changing this is, right? So even though the MV is not the new MPC, like the MPC X or the Fantom, it builds on the standalone model in a whole new way. Now I'm gonna tell you why this is so MV, because as you're gonna see in future videos, the MV30, to me the granddaddy MV is what I'm gonna call it, is the same way. And the VerseLab seems to take more after the MV30. Now don't get me wrong, it takes a lot from this MV8000, like the effects. It has the effects capability and the sounds, the fact that it sounds good, just like the MV8000 and 8800. It can be a standalone rack mount synthesizer if you want. You want to just use it just for sounds. That's what you could do, which I plan on doing that. It's a little bit later, but the fact that you can control it with an iPad or hook it up to a Windows computer or a MacBook, as you see in the background here, it's just great. It's just game changing. It makes it where you can basically do anything anywhere. Now I'm going to let you hear another point that this guy made, and then I'm going to close this one down. Check it out.
You also have access to your multi-band compression, your 5-band EQ, your limiter, all with dedicated GUIs.
Lots of people are using the MV and they think that it's quiet. They think that somehow it doesn't bump, but he just told you, you have access to the limiter, the 5-band EQ, the 5-band multi-compression, all on the main track. That's not what you have per clip, because you got the M effects per clip. Then the main track has its own M effects that by coincidence has something called low boost, which is just to boost them lows if you want to really knock. I think that was a wish list request, but it has the limiter and has the 5-band EQ on there where you can adjust the mid, high, and the lows all on the spectrum. And I think that goes overlooked when you don't have the screen in front of you, because it's in there by default. But if you're looking at that one screen, like he said, and you have to bounce to multiple menus to get to there, it's not at the front of your brain. Anyway, let's check out some more.
You can also do tone editing. So if I double click on one of these clips, I then get a dedicated tone editor with both tone and MFX and your mix parameters all in a GUI. So I can see I have my tuning here, I have my envelope controls, some vibrato controls, importantly your filter controls here as well, and some key modes. So all this is built into this VerseLab project editor that lives in ZenBeats 2.1. So pretty exciting. And as we say, that this is not a replacement for this. It's a way of enhancing the workflow. VerseLab by itself works great as a standalone unit. But sometimes with the screen and menu diving, adding ZenBeats is really going to speed up your some of that production process, particularly with the mixing and the sound editing. So
Now, another byproduct of the cracked gear revolution was companies putting more security on their software. So first it started with iLocks and even iLock dongles. You had the dongles where you had to put the USB dongle in or you couldn't access your shit, right? Now, I forgot what the first company to do it, but now most things are subscription based. And all you got to do is read the comment section, and people seem to hate subscription based, right? So I kind of saw this coming. So what I like to call the Integra 7, which sits just over here out of view, I like to call that ZenCore Beta, because ZenCore is just seeming like a smaller footprint version of the Integra 7. The Integra 7, if people don't know, it's the last Rompler sampler, the last rack mount module that probably came out from Roland, and it's the last Rompler type thing, and it still goes for like about $1,000, maybe even more if you buy brand new offline or something. But they still cost about $1,000 because they sound so good, man. I mean, you can do anything with them if you know what you're doing. But just like the ZenCore, every channel in the Integra has its own channel for the multi effects. Every one of them. And the drum bus even has its own whole bus. Like the drum channels on there have their own compression section and own multi-band compression and all kind of stuff. So, and another thing they did with the Integra 7 was they had this web page called Axial, and you could basically hook a USB port up there, and you can go onto Axial and download sound settings and save those in 16-track studio sets. And they weren't new sounds, but they were people who had used the new sound engine, which was the Supernatural at that time, to make Juno sounds or make SH-101 sounds or make TB-303 sounds or Jupiter sound. And the Roland Cloud was just the next obvious step to me that they were going to take, and they took it. Now, what does this have to do with the MV? Well, the MV is married to ZenBeats, as you can hear him say, and ZenBeats is embedded into the Roland Cloud. So with Roland Cloud, I've got access to whatever keyboards that Roland made that I don't have, which I have a bunch of them that I like right here, but I also got access to Zenology Pro, and that, regarding the MV, is one of the modules that you can design sounds for and download them onto a ZenCore product. The MV fits that bill. So I can actually take a sound that I like, customize it, save it in Zenology Pro, and then port it over to my MV. So by way of the Roland Cloud, I can still expand the sounds on the MV. What more can you ask for? I mean, that's sound design for your MV right there. And people don't like the subscriptions or the subscription-based commerce, but this is what we get when we steal software. It's no different than Splice or TrackLive or Output. It's no different than any of that stuff. Only thing is different is they've been doing it longer. Now, I have to admit, the new sounding stuff is great, and I think have diversity is pretty cool, but I like the Roland stuff, and since I got an MV, I'm pretty sure it's something under that Roland umbrella that I can use. And so regarding the FL users in the house, which I consider myself, I like FL. I never use most of the DAWs to sequence, but I like the sounds, right? FL users and AI. FL users are sensitive, and this is probably going to be hard for them to hear. I think they're sensitive because, one, they know they didn't pay for their gear, at least most of them. I'm not going to say, I know some people who have bought FL, but I've met way more people who didn't than did. Then on top of that, it's an easy piece of software to work with. Nobody likes to be told that what they're using is easy, because that's like saying anybody can do it, but you got to be good at it. So know that you must be good at doing the easy stuff, which is fine. But in addition to that, you've been feeding the same tempo, the same drum sounds, the same types of songs to the FL cloud, to SoundCloud, to all these different cloud-based sources for like a decade or so. Now AI comes on the scene and can mimic the best of everything you guys got to offer, because it just take the SoundCloud to BeatStars. The BeatStars SoundCloud knows what the most popular upload is, what DAW you're using, and what sounds you're using, what sample packs you're using. It could probably put together a whole song and put your name on it, and it sounds just like you. And this is a symptom of everybody using the same shit.